I think the first time that we ever got together on the radio, this is one of the things we talked about. We've talked about it every time since. I doubt there's a person you ever run into who knows what you do who doesn't want to hear this famous story. This one has put Chicago on the ghostly map, hasn't it?
It certainly has, and of all the stories told about Chicago, the one that instantly grabs the attention of people, no matter where they're from in the United States, no matter where they're from in the world, they all want to hear about Resurrection Mary. Of course, hitchhiking ghosts as a genre, if you will, are well known around the world. There are hitchhiking ghosts in just about every country on the face of the globe. But when it comes to the Chicago area, the most famous hitchhiking ghost, and one that is so often encountered, is that of Resurrection Mary.
What does the hitchhiking represent, if you've been able to pin that down?
What does the hitchhiking represent? Well, I have found certain trends, certain common denominators in many ghost stories. And the idea of motion plays in so many. So we have rocking chair ghosts, the rocking motion back and forth, and the just driving along the highway, driving along the roadway, just sets up a certain mood and a certain atmosphere. Perhaps that's something to do with it too. It just seems to fit so very, very, very well and come together so very, very well that the hitchhiking ghost, common around the country, and here in Chicago is so very, very well known along Archer primarily, either into the city or out of the city, one way or the other, passing by Resurrection Cemetery in Justice, Illinois, 7400 South Archer.
What is the date we're talking about? This story goes back how many years?
Now, we can trace stories back. I've interviewed people as far back who've had their experiences back as far as 1939. And one gentleman who appeared on That's Incredible, Southwest Side man, told me how he had his personal incident at Liberty Grove and Hall, 47th and Mozart. This was a little hall that was active in the pre-World War II days. It has since been torn down. There's just housing there. He met the young girl at the dance, danced with her over and over again. Later that evening, since she didn't seem to know anybody else in the place, and he was having such a grand time with her, he asked her, well, do you need a ride home? And she readily accepted. But they got in the car and they started down Archer towards the area of Justice, Illinois. When they got near the cemetery gates, she said, please pull the car to the side of the road. He did. She said, I must cross the road at this point. You cannot follow me. She suddenly jumped from the car and ran towards those gates and then disappeared before she got to them. And it's then this man realized that he had just had a most unusual experience. And the girl, of course, was none other than Resurrection Mary, the famous ghost. So this young lady named Mary, blonde, in a white dress, has been encountered like that a number of times over the years, or just seen walking along the road, seen walking across the road from the cemetery, or along the cemetery fence, or in and out through the gates. And as you know, Ed, I'm sure you know that area quite well, particularly if it's a full moon night or very bright night, as many of the instances are of the encounters of Resurrection Mary. If you know the area, you know there's nowhere to hide. A blonde in a white dress is highly visible. Where's she going to go? And one good thing about Southsiders these days, or just people in general that are traveling by the Resurrection Cemetery area, nobody takes it passively anymore. Nobody drives by, sees something that looks like Resurrection Mary and keeps going. I would venture to say that 99 people out of 100 are going to slam on the brakes immediately and jump out and check it out for themselves, or make a U-turn, or make some attempt to get right back to the spot, to grab that girl, find out just what's going on. It's certainly not a prankster dressing up. That is certainly not the case in these stories. And in the few seconds it takes to stop the car, turn around, come back, the girl is gone. She disappears. The
question, of course, is who was she? I can't say who is she, but who was she?
Right,
and
who was she?
And why does she prowl Archer and Justice in the cemetery and come and go? Why does she not rest?
That's a very hotly debated topic, and you can get into all kinds of arguments in local halls or bars down along Archer. And there are a few schools of thought about that, and there are, in fact, a few candidates for the title of Resurrection Mary. Resurrection, as we mentioned earlier, is the largest cemetery in North America, according to many. There are tens of thousands of graves out there. That's tens of thousands of possibilities. In a Polish-American cemetery, there's a lot of blonde, blue-eyed young ladies buried there. I'm sure many of whom, when they left this world, if they left this world in a young age, didn't really care to leave it. And if they did have the choice in the matter, and if they could come back, they would come back. So there's many possibilities, and I am fairly sure there's got to be more than one ghost involved, and this is based on interviewing people who were told by the ghost when she was around what her name was, where she lived. There's at least 2 girls coming back as ghosts. There's quite possibly 3, and my list of candidates is it runs more than half a dozen. And it depends on who you talk to, and depends on other factors as to various minor points and how the appearance takes place, how the ghost acts, the MO of the ghost, if you will. That I'm sure there's more than one ghost involved. There has to be a number of ghosts just to account for the great number of occurrences and the different variety of occurrences. We've got girls walking around the area at night, in and out through the gates. We've got the classic hitchhiking thing, the classic idea of the ghost getting into a car, and much, much more.
How did she die, or how did they die?
Okay, the 3 major candidates, 2 of them died at a young age in their early 20s in automobile accidents of injuries suddenly.
Which would explain the usage of Archer as their major...
And a 3rd girl died of tuberculosis after getting so run down, getting so ill, and not taking care of herself as her doctor ordered, that eventually she succumbed to that disease, and that was because she wanted to keep going up partying night after night. So watch out, everybody out there. If you're going to party too hard and too long, you might be coming back along one of our major thoroughfares as a ghost.
So right.
She certainly is a party-type ghost in the sense that she feels committed to getting out, getting back to places, and visiting them at night, and much more often getting back home again to the cemetery.
Before sunrise?
Well, before sunrise, and usually, though, the encounters, Ed, of the girl coming back to the cemetery occur around 1:30 or so in the morning, which, of course, would be about the time the dances and parties are breaking up.
Could be right about now, huh?
This would be the time to keep an eye peeled for a young lady in white anywhere along Archer. Maybe at the intersection of Willow Springs Road and Archer. That's where a cab driver picked her up in January of 1979, or maybe other places out that way.